everybody. My name is Mercy, and I am 16. Have you ever heard of the expression that says, children are punished for the sins of their parents? Well, I am that very kid. I suppose the main cause of my problems is that I could never see my biological mother as my mother. Even though I knew her for my whole life, and I found out that she was really my mother a long time ago, when I was 8. It was then that my father, Ben, told me that my older sister, Anise, was, in fact, my mother. Oh my God, how happy I was! Anise lived in another city, and I did not see her often, but I waited for her every time as if it were Christmas. This also meant that Anise's children were my real brothers and sisters, and I knew that Anise was expecting another baby who was going to be born soon. Of course, I asked my father if we could go and see Anise as soon as possible. When I looked out the train window and thought about my first encounter with Anise as my mother, it had suddenly occurred to my mind that my father was indeed my grandfather. It might seem strange, but this was much harder for me to accept, even though everything had become clear now. Ben was well beyond his 50s, and he was older than all my friends' fathers. But I was confused, trying to adapt to this new world inside my head. But this happy feeling that I will soon hug my mother still mattered most. I suppose that there was one single moment in my life when I felt that Anise was my mother. When we arrived, and I embarrassingly tongue-twisted the simplest words in the world and fumblingly said, "Mommy, please comb me," while Anise was brushing my hair and we talked about the baby sleeping under her heart. I was totally and absolutely happy. And I was happy for a while after Ben and I got back home. I did not have any close friends, but I told everybody who would listen that I would soon be living with my mother. It's good that my life did not interest people too much. And nobody asked me about it later on, because after a couple of months, I realized that Anise was not going to change her life. Ben, who I had started to call my father again, tried to comfort me and said that Anise was having a hard time right now, waiting for the baby, and her other children needed her attention too, and that now was just not the best time for change. But the right time never came, and I started to call Anise my sister again. Ben did not correct me. It was easier for both of us. 4 years had passed, and suddenly Ben and I learned that Anise had left her husband and their 3 children. I was already 12, and Ben did not hide his shock from me. But I felt hope. If Anise had left them, did it mean she would come back to us? To me? I did not tell Ben about my thoughts. I kept them deep inside my heart. But since I saw that he did not approve of Anise's actions, I argued with him, sincerely defending her and looking for any reasons that could justify her decisions. At approximately the same time, I asked him how it happened that he adopted me, and he told me. Anise was 16 when she gave birth to me. She had to miss a year of high school because of that. And then she moved to another town to finish school, leaving her newborn, me, with her father, Ben. And when Anise came back, she did not want to stay with Ben. She had found a job and could now afford to rent a room, so she moved out and took me with her. But the baby, who did not yet turn 2, only caused problems. When she left for work, she left me with her roommate who worked from home. But once, he went out to get some food, just for a second, and suddenly he ran into a friend. It might have been okay, but he had left a window open. It was winter, and I got pneumonia after several hours of crying in an ice-cold room, dressed in just a sliders. Ben took me into his home after the hospital. He thought it would be a temporary situation, but after 6 months, Anise got married and left town. In the next 6 months, she had another baby. Then another one. I was already 4 by that time, and I remember drawing a greeting card for my dear sister, Anise. Ben's story only made me more positive that Anise, my mother, was going to come back to us. But within a year, Ben and I learned that Anise had had another baby and was happily living with him and her new boyfriend. I think that this news was the final blow to all my naive dreams, and as they vanished, I sank into the darkness of depression. But half a year ago, Ben decided that we should go and visit Anise, even though it seemed like she did not want that, and kept repeating that everything was fine. But Ben was full of determination to see his 5th grandchild, so we paid her a surprise visit. When we entered her home, we understood everything without words. The tiny apartment was unkempt and dirty, and in addition, it smelled awful. Anise tried to look cheerful, but she looked bad, and it seemed to me that I sensed the faint smell of alcohol coming from her. We did not see her boyfriend, who was about to get home any minute, as she repeated again and again, but we saw Harvey, my 3-year-old brother. He was a thin and pale kid who cried terribly when Anise tried to pull him from the corner where he was sitting to say hello to us, and I noticed bruises all over his slender arms. We left that same evening, and I fought with Ben on our way home. He blamed Anise, and I tried to defend her and made up any possible excuses for what we had seen. But when I came to my room, I started crying, and I could not stop. I have never felt worse. I never even heard when Ben entered my room, and it was only when he hugged me that I realized he was there, and he was also crying. And then he said that it seemed like we needed a good psychotherapist. It seems to me that before I saw the bruises on Harvey's arms, I might have been able to misinterpret this lovely woman's words. She said that I should not only stop trying to treat Anise as my sister, but also that I should stop trying to protect her. It was not her who needed protection, but Harvey. Just like I needed protection before. But for me, there was always my grandfather. And also just like the 3 other kids that she left probably do. She said that adoption always suffers from secrets and confusion, but a grown-up person needs the courage to reveal these secrets. My story is coming to an end. Soon I will go and see Anise again, and I will call her my mother, looking straight into her eyes for the first time in 8 years and for the second time in my whole life. And I will talk to her about Harvey, because Ben and I decided that we are ready to take the kid to stay with us until Anise grows up. Now I am exactly the same age that Anise was when she gave birth to me, but I will not repeat her mistakes that one way or another her children will have to pay for. It was Mercy. Thank you for listening to me, and I wish your families well. Please watch the videos on this channel.